and want to take viewers back up to Capitol Hill. We're joined by Texas Republican Congressman Pat Fallon for a couple minutes ahead of the House going into session this morning. And Congressman, want to start with you on the question we asked Congressman Mark Pocan, the Democrat who joined us about an hour ago. It was, how do you describe the political moment that we are in this country right now in the wake of the shooting of Charlie Kirk last week and what we've seen since then?
I would say that it's unfortunate. I would call it dangerous and call it pivotal. We have, there's nothing wrong with having a spirited exchange of ideas in the public square. That's what our republic was founded on. To then take it up to violence, where you're going to take a life simply because someone disagrees with you. And Charlie Kirk was a mainstream political figure. He was clearly, right of center, but he was right of center. He wasn't on the fringes by any stretch. And so it's very unfortunate. But what I'm praying for, to be very candid with you, is that nothing further happens. Because if someone else were to be harmed, this could spiral into a very dark place. So I'm really praying that we all Americans, use the guaranteed protections we have within the Constitution. We have a right to redress, and we have freedom of speech and the press and what have you. And that's the way to channel any anger that people have or any disappointments. They can become active, and they can become really masters of their own fate.
Is there anything we need to do about social media in this country, both on the front end of getting people to a point that they might take an action like this, and what we see on social media after incidents like this, and how often we see it on our feeds?
With a country of 340 million people, you're going to have some folks that just have dark souls, and you can't let, say, 1 out of 1,000, blind you to the other 999. Really, and also, are these some of the comments that we're seeing on social media, are they coming even from human beings? Clearly, many of them are, but there are some. It would suit Russia, China, North Korea, and our other enemies very well to sit there and sow this kind of and foment this discord and division in our country. So we can't fall into that trap, and I'm not going to let, and nor should anyone, let some very dark soul that's just filled with hate, darken who you are. We have to really look to the better angels of our nature, and I think that serves the country well also.
If state actors are sowing discord in this country, does it require a state action response by the U.S. government?
That's a very interesting question. You want to, it's really going to be up to, or maybe even a partnership, because you want to be careful here. You're treading on thin ice, as opposed to, we want First Amendment rights for Americans and folks that are here in the country legally, but to allow a foreign actor to sow discord via social media. I mean, it's something that's it's new territory, because it's really the last couple of decades that we've seen social media explode onto the scene. So I think in partnership, working, and if there is a solution, it should certainly be bipartisan, and we should work with some of the social media providers and they took measures. I can recall them taking measures years ago to ensure that the folks that are commenting on their platforms are indeed American citizens. So that's something that we certainly should look at.
What will be Charlie Kirk's legacy?
Unfortunately, he's a martyr, a 31-year-old kid. I mean, 31-year-old. I mean, I say that now because I'm in my 50s, but 31-year-old kid. But a 31-year-old man that was, I think, a genius in so many ways. I mean, he's a very good debater, and I think he did have a very kind heart, and he showed that time and again. With a beautiful wife and 2 little children. So I think the legacy is going to be that he was, a legend of free speech, and certainly, really, all Americans should celebrate his life. Those that are, tend to agree with him more in the political spectrum will, remember him fondly. But we all should, because he did it the right way.
Congressman, I know you only have a few minutes. Let me change gears to
Sure.
the funding debate on Capitol Hill. Where will we be 2 weeks from now? Do you think we're going to avoid a government shutdown?
I do hope, I do not only hope that we're going to avoid a government shutdown, I think we will. There are plans in place. I met with some of the members of leadership yesterday, And there is certainly a path. There's many different paths to get to a good place. And, I also sit on the Armed Services Committee. So every time there's a CR, which stands for Continuing Resolution, but if you're on the Armed Services Committee, we call it the China Resolution, because we can't start new weapons programs and defense programs when on CR money. So we do want to see a budget to get passed. We do want to see these appropriations bills going through, and we're certainly going to do everything we can to get us there.
Do you think if we operate under a continuing resolution, there's going to be money in that continuing resolution for member security and this issue that has popped up in the wake of Charlie Kirk?
I think there may be, yes, and not only for the legislative branch, but also for the Supreme Court, the judicial branch, and more executive as well. We really have to take it far more seriously than we have in the past. Not to say that we've been flippant, but we've been, I think, a bit on the lackadaisical side, in so much as there's a lot of folks that have an interest in doing us harm, not just nuts domestically in this country, but some foreign actors and certainly terrorists. I remember in 9/11, September of 2021, and we've forgot some of those lessons. So we just have to, prepare, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and really make ourselves, you're never going to be completely safe. Even John Kennedy said, if somebody wants to get you, they'll probably get you, but you don't have to make it easy. And so you want to be maybe not necessarily safe, but safer. And that's what we're looking at for all the members, because the last thing we want to see, God forbid, if some member, some prominent political figure, whether they're elected or not, is harmed in the coming weeks and months, it's not going to be a healthy thing for our republic.
Another issue that's being talked about as a possible addition to a continuing resolution, additional sanctions on Russia. Where do you stand on that? Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it. I've been very clear since 2022 that the aggressor was Putin. We want Ukraine to expel the invader. They're our ally. They're the ones. Listen, is Ukraine a functioning Jeffersonian democracy in the classic form? Not yet. But if you look historically at nations like South Korea and Taiwan, it took them about 50 years to get there. And Ukraine was 30 years along in that journey, so they had some time to go. So just because Ukraine is imperfect doesn't mean that we don't want to help them. And we don't want to give them a blank check. At the same time, we don't want to do, we have to do something. We don't want to just do nothing and then have Russia run them over. So doing sanctions, secondary sanctions, is a tool in President Trump's toolbox. I would like to see our Indian friends and Modi understand the implications of cozying up to China and Russia. They are the world's largest democracy. We're the world's oldest, and we are natural allies. And I would like to see some more constructive actions on their part. So these sanctions might help our friends on the subcontinent and others see maybe more of the light in the day.
What would you like to see come out of the state visit to the United Kingdom that the president is headed to this coming days after the continent of Europe very concerned about the Russian drone incursion into NATO ally Poland?
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of, I was speaking with the Estonian general a couple of years ago, and he said, no one unites NATO quite like Vladimir Putin. And then we get 2 new members with Finland and Sweden. So I'm very glad the president's going to, the special relationship is very important, the transatlantic relationship we have with Great Britain, one of our oldest friends and allies. And we have to show a united front with NATO, and we've been doing that increasingly. And I'd like to see, and nobody would have thought 10 years ago we couldn't get many of our NATO allies to spend and commit 2% of their GDP to defense. And now there is an agreement on 5%. Because there is a threat, and it's unfortunate, but it is the reality. So starting with the major players within NATO as far as GDP and the military, of course, would be us and the Brits, the Germans, the French, and many of our other partners. The Poles have come on very strong of late as well. So we need to show that united front and hopefully can deter him. But, President Trump was talking to Putin in good faith. Clearly, Putin was not. And at the end of the day, you got to remember, he's a trained KGB officer.
Congressman, I know you got to run to get to your day. One last question.
Sure.
Where are you on the Massey Kana, the discharge petition for a floor vote on releasing the Epstein files?
I'm all for releasing them. That was really sloppily done with the Massey effort. And we have an alternative that we already have supported that will release, hundreds of thousands of pages on this, because it's not like, I think a lot of folks think that there's literally some file in a filing cabinet somewhere. It's not. There's an extensive information. I fully believe in transparency. You just have to do it responsibly, and the leadership effort from our party is the responsible way to do that.
We'll let you get to your day. Congressman
Thank you.
Pat Fallon, Republican of Texas, Armed Services Committee, Intelligence Committee as well. Always appreciate your time.
Thank you. Take care.